Well, I'm excited to bring onto the program a guy who I've never met, but I've enjoyed the work of the No Laying Up team since they came onto the scene a few years ago. It's been really remarkable run, and not to insinuate that it's anything but on the upward track. In this latest series that they've launched on YouTube, the Tourist Sauce brought them to our home state of Michigan, where I kind of felt left out. Tron, let me introduce you first to our guest. It's Tron Carter. And I felt left out. I was like, hey, guys, you're in my town. What are we doing here? Let's go. What a fun series you guys have put together.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun ride. And I think Michigan, I don't know, I was super excited about this one because I don't think people outside of Michigan or outside of the Midwest really ascribe Michigan to being a hotspot golf destination. But I think it like, in my opinion, it's the hotspot golf destination because there's so much value and so much, so much great variety. And it's, it's right there at your fingertips. It's centrally located and everything. So it was fun to kind of surprise everybody with, hey, like there's a lot of good stories here in Michigan.
Over the last few years, largely because of that direct series of daily flights from Dallas into Traverse City, we've begun hearing all sorts of accents around the state, because those who live like in the Southwest who can't go outdoors in July, or unless they want to change shirts 14 times before they make the turn, they're coming up here to Michigan and going, wait a minute, it's 80. There's no humidity. This is incredible. Give me a jacket. It's pretty cool. So for your team, those on the No Laying Up team who came here maybe for the first time, what were you hearing from them? What was the experience like?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, we live in Florida, or most of us live in Florida. So it was, coming up in July, August was same kind of thing. It's 95 degrees and 85% humidity here, and all sorts of thunderstorms and everything, and you're flying up to the nicest place in the world in the middle of the summer. So I think everybody was Randy had been vacationing up there for many years, so he's very familiar with it. Neil had been up once with me, but DJ and Solly and Ben and Cody were very new to it. They had really not had any Northern Michigan experience. So I don't think they knew what to expect. And I think, some of it too was, starting in Detroit and finishing up in Marquette, they saw the entire state. So, really, even when they got to Detroit or Grand Rapids, it was radically different 2 days later when we were in Roscommon or we were in Traverse City. So, I think everybody was just really blown away by the variety. And don't think the scenery was it was an 8 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10 because of the wildfire smoke this past summer. It was pretty hazy for most of our days. So you really didn't get quite as much of that, bright blue, almost Caribbean style Lake Michigan, hue. But yeah, I think everybody was blown away by it. And I think beyond the golf and the locations was just the people, the food, the beer, just a really dynamic place.
There's a celebration of the game that takes place here, largely I think because of two primary components. One, we've got a lot of really good golf courses, and two, the compressed season. So, as you and I talk in early December, we're done. we're done.
And you've been done for a little bit.
Yeah, we've been done for a couple of weeks here, and there are still some diehards who saw the forecast for today was like 41, and they'll find somewhere with sticks in the ground and go out and try. But we're largely done while you're in Jacksonville, and you could probably step out your patio and hit balls. So we have this unique appreciation for it, but there's also a territorial pride. So when we have, we'll just say, out of towners come into Michigan to discover it for the first time, it seems like everybody who loves the game is offended if you don't go to the places they love the most, right? Yeah. How could you not go there? And you're like, guys, we got like a week. We can't go everywhere. There's 800 courses. How was the decision-making process for your itinerary? How was that put together, and what kind of feedback did you get on the places you didn't go?
Yeah, well, I think, going back to what you said about kind of that pride and that just that sense of place in Michigan, I saw that more in Michigan than I had anywhere else domestically. Maybe Nebraska's up there as well on that front, but in Scotland or in Ireland, they genuinely want, like, they're so curious and so keen to hear what you heard, what you thought about their golf course. And I think in Michigan we got a lot of that as well. But yeah, on the itinerary front, it was a lot of geography to cram into. We try to do these in about 10 to 12 days. I've got two young kids, and we've all got families, so it's like being gone for longer than about 12 to 14 days is that's kind of our limit. And but we knew we wanted to get to, each area of the state, even if it was just for one day in that area, which sometimes leads us to biting off more than we can chew. Um, but and then on the itinerary front, we try to keep it relatively quiet beforehand too, just because having those conversations in the midst of the trip of, hey, why didn't you guys go here or that, it's like, hey, we want to focus on where we are today, right? So but I think it was pretty obvious we wanted to start in Detroit. I'd played Rackham earlier in the year and just wanted to, like, I the back nine there is as good as it gets as far as public municipal golf. I mean, it's wonderful. I need to get back to Rouge Park. But and then we looked at Meadowbrook, we looked at a few other places as far as doing one of the privates. We ended up at Detroit Golf Club just because we felt like that was probably most representative of just, golf in Detroit. You've got the Rocket Mortgage Classic, all of that. So that was a fun episode to do, and really tried to make it a celebration of Detroit at large versus just a focus on those particular golf courses.
How different was the reality of the Detroit experience for you guys from the publicized reality, the news reality?
Yeah, I think that's, I'd been up a few times, so I'd had a good sense of it. Like, I went to a MAC school, so I came up a few times for the MAC championship game, and then just I've had friends up there. So I feel like Detroit always gets a bad rap. Certainly, there's issues, or there's problems, but also there's a lot of bright spots and a lot of, it's a, like, culturally dynamic place. So I think that was the tack that we tried to take was, hey, let's focus on the good stuff happening here because there's plenty of it, instead of just kind of going back to the same old talking points or the same old stereotypes. Which, yeah, and really, to be honest, it's not hard to find those bright spots and those positive things. It seems like there's been a massive momentum here over the last 5 to 8 years.
A couple summers ago, we produced a show called the Devries Golf Trail. Mike Devries' courses. You guys did this. You did the Diamond Springs, the Mines, Pilgrim's Run, and you ended up, at Gray Walls and Marquette. Not necessarily in contiguous order, but you got up there, and it brought you in contact with one of my favorite people in the game.
Yeah.
For the resume that Mike has, you could make an argument that he doesn't need to talk to any of us, right? But he's a super down to earth guy, with a really, really good eye for putting courses together. I don't know if you frequently encounter golf course architects, but what was your experience like with Mike, and maybe how he shared his vision with you? And I don't want to leave off Kingsley Club as well, because that's another incredible part of his sculpting.
Yeah, I mean, he's first and foremost, like, even before getting to the golf course architecture, he's just a guy you want to hang out with,
Yeah.
right? I think Neil, my brother, called him a hockey guy, right? He's like a locker room guy. You just want to hang out with him. You want to go get a beer with him
He's a
afterwards.
good player too. He's a good golfer.
Yeah, and he's just such a down to earth, like you said, just wonderful, warm, kind-hearted person. Um, and then add on top of that, dynamic storyteller, and a world-class golf course architect with a really firm sense of history,
Yeah.
right? So, I've spent time with Gil Hance or Tom Doak, a few other golf course architects, but none, like, with them, I don't know, a lot of it seems a lot more, trying to think what the right term would be, but just like a lot more niche, right? Whereas Mike talks about golf course architecture like it's a sport, and like it's just, he always calls it reactionary golf course architecture, and I think that's, he's truly reacting to the topography, and he puts it in plain English. I
Yeah.
think, which is, he's got a gift for that, and it's like a winemaker that can bring wine, talk about wine in a way that somebody off the street can just kind of understand and grasp. It's the same thing with golf course architecture. It's kind of inherently snobby, or, kind of very, very niche, right? And so I think the fact that he can make it kind of a casual, objective thing is really a cool, unique skill that he's got.
Did you come away with a favorite Devries out of that group I just mentioned?
Well, so it was funny. I played, I think I appreciated all of them because I played Crystal Downs first. And so seeing what initially, like inspired him and really, had a tremendous effect on his philosophy before playing any of his courses, I think was really impactful for me. So I think, gosh, and really the University of Michigan course as well. I mean, seeing some of the stuff that he was inspired by there too. So, gosh, I would say we hit gray walls on the last day of the trip. So I need to get back there because we were a little bit ragged by that point, and we had a very flat light and kind of, a cloudy day up there. I'd like to get back there on like a Bluebird Chamber of Commerce.
Right. Yeah, there are some of those.
Yeah. But, I would say Kingsley's about as fun and cool as I've played. But Diamond Springs, there were a few holes at Diamond Springs that I would put in my favorite holes that I played all year.
Yeah. And I take Pilgrim's Run and I put it right in my top 10 in the state of Michigan. Love the course and the vibe there. And I don't know if you guys got into it at all off camera, but with each of the holes being named after a theme or a chapter from Pilgrim's Progress, it's unmatched in that thoughtfulness that comes through. And you get onto 18 and it's the sloth of despond, and I don't know, just got this extra layer of character to it. I really love Pilgrim's Run.
I love Pilgrim's Run as far as that, that par 5 on the back.
Yeah.
Was it 12 or 13? That was I think some of the most handsome slopes around greens I've ever seen, where just they're not gentle slopes. I mean, they're steep, but they're simple. And there was stuff at Pilgrim's Run that legitimately reminded me of Augusta National.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The handsome long slopes.
I'll tell you a quick Gray Walls story. When we were up shooting there a couple of years ago, the morning that we woke up in our hotel there in downtown Marquette, it was raining so hard you couldn't see the parking lot. So we're just laying around the hotel. I call over to the course, and it turns out they were having a Michigan amateur qualifier that day as well. So I'm figuring, well, if we're delayed for a few hours, then certainly that qualifier is going to be delayed. So I talked to Mark Gilmore, who's been there forever. And he said, no, they're going out. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, we have to get them out there. And there was a collection of amateurs trying to qualify for the AM, but these weren't guys who were barely scraping by at a 5 to be eligible. These were Big Ten players. There were Michigan State Spartans. There were former Michigan AM champs. There was quite a field that had chosen Gray Walls to go and qualify. And I said, well, Mark, I don't have any idea how these guys can even stand upright right now. He goes, in the pro shop, we're kind of placing little bets that nobody breaks 80. And these are talented players. So a couple hours go by, skies start to clear up. Now it's only in the 30s, by the way. I forgot to mention that time it was 36 degrees, raining blindly, cats and dogs. About 1 o'clock, clears up. It's still really cold and super windy, but it's as clear as can be. Chamber of Commerce Day, if your Chamber of Commerce is located in Antarctica. So we go over to shoot. My guys are freezing. None of us have dressed appropriately. Like the day before, it was 70. Okay, so I said, hey, by the way, how'd the qualifier go? He said there was a 19-year-old kid from Scotland who grew up in Scotland, who came in and slapped down a 66. And they were just all aghast that was even possible. And then we went out and shot. And in between shots on camera, we're putting jackets on, taking them off, and trying to make it look warmer than it was. And having said all of that, I loved the Jurassic Parkness of that experience, because there are some points on that golf course where you're like, wait a minute, how much dynamite did they use here? Because that's how some of those holes were formed. And for Mike to have that vision and that ability to think that through, again, is another, I guess, line on his resume, because That's not normal thinking.
No, and I mean, there were certain points where I'm like, I don't know if there should be a golf course here, but I'm glad there is, right?
Right. While you're taking the drive out to the first tee that takes about 10 minutes in a cart.
Yeah, that was pretty jarring, I guess, to get there and be like, all right, where's the first tee, and then
Can't see
from
it.
there, where are we going next after this?
Yeah.
It was definitely it was kind of suspended reality there for a while.
Let's go over to the loop in Forest Dunes for a minute, because
Yeah.
you guys had mixed feedback on the loop, and a couple of your guys, I don't remember who had which
Me, I
opinion,
got
but a couple of
I
you
got
guys
all
did not
sorts.
like it, and kind of gave him some chin music a little bit. I wonder what you might have heard back from the Forest Dunes folks and from your viewers.
Yeah, so I think I was probably the most vocal, where I think it was some of it was a me problem with expectations. I love, like, St. Andrews, the old course is my favorite course in the world, and so I was expecting, reversible, a little bit flatter, a little bit more muted, or one kind of feature that defines the hole going each direction, right? And got there, and I think some of it was the day that we played it on, played the duel. So it was turned up to, a million with
Yeah.
there were some pins on the first go around that made more sense on the second go around, but you probably wouldn't put them there in that spot, if not for playing it both ways in the same day. So and then, kind of a gray, windy day. So, kind of, I would say, try to keep an open mind after the first 18, but I felt like all the greens were elevated, like pushed up a little bit, which I think that to me felt a little unnecessary. I didn't understand, like, there's little plateaus on top of them, and with the firmness, I love the firmness. Like, that's, you don't see that in the United States very often, outside of, say, Bandon or, places in Nebraska. But so I love that, but with how firm it plays, there's just some extreme slopes up to some of the greens, and it just felt like there could have been a softer touch or a softer, kind of. But then, same thing. Like that day, I think the golf coach from Michigan State and one of his players went out and shot, like, net 60 or like gross 62 or something on the best ball. So,
Right.
maybe I'm just not good enough of a player, but I felt like I like playing the ground game. I like, I'm a 2 or 3 handicap. And I felt like there were so many there were so many spots where I was either going to get within, like, I either had to get it within a foot or I was going to be 25 feet away. There was no in between.
Well, there's a learning curve also to figuring out your distances. And I'm not professing to have figured it out,
Yeah.
but it's different. If you laser 138 and you think I'm going to hit this shot 138, then go get your wedge, because you'll be chipping back from 160.
Yeah.
Right. So how long do you think it took, learning curve wise, to figure out where to land it?
I think actually that was probably the thing that I was, most looking forward to, just because I played so much in England, Scotland, Ireland, as far as, playing a lot of links golf. It's like, that's what I look forward to, is kind of getting in the yardage book and figuring out, hey, here's, I got to land it 22 yards short here, and then this is going to help me out. So that was fine. But I think when you've got all those kind of elevated greens, that's where I really struggle. Where, like, on I think we played the red first, and there was a par 3, 17 was a par 3, and there's like a massive slope right in front of that green, and you're either hitting it into the slope and it's not getting up the slope, or you're bouncing it up, and then it's like a 50-50 chance of whether it's going to go over the back or whether it's going to, stay up there. And so I think, and I love rub of the green. I love chance in golf. I love luck in golf, but to, like, in certain instances there, it just felt like over and over and over again, I was being asked to do something that, like I would accomplish what I was trying to do, and then it still wasn't yielding even close to the result I expected.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's I've always told people that if you go there, I don't want to hear your opinion until you've played it in both directions.
yeah.
And then if you have issues with it, then at least you've given it the full test, right? But I haven't found anybody who doesn't instantly fall in love with the original Forest Dunes course.
Yeah. Oh,
What
that's great.
Weisskopf did over there is, man, that's just good, solid, really good golf. And I would love, I mean, I know that because of the location of Forest Dunes, it's not going to happen, but I would love to see a big time tournament
Yeah.
held on that course and just see how it holds up to some, you know, some of the great players. It's really good.
Yeah, it's just the demand. I played it about 8 or 9 years ago for the first time, and just the demanding. You can't hide, you can't fake it around there, right? You
Yeah.
got to hit fairways, you got to hit your irons well, you got to putt well. Those greens are so pure. Um, and then I was blown away. The short course was really tough.
It's really
Uh,
fun, but it's really
it's
tough.
really, yeah, it's really fun. There's some great little plateaus and stuff, but I was not prepared for how I thought we were just gonna go out and have a little hit and giggle and everything. And we're playing a little skins game, and it turns into, pars and bogeys are winning the skins game. Uh,
Yeah.
So, but I think with Forest Dunes, with the loop as well, I don't think it helped that we played in, it was a stroke play tournament as well. So that probably, messed with our psyche a little bit. It's a great match play course. I also think that some of the holes I think some of the greens I didn't like them from both directions. So I think that was, maybe part of it too, was there were about 12 or 13 greens. I'm like, man, I love this place. This could be great. I just felt like it's very, very cool, very good. I can't wait to get back to it and see how my opinion changes with more reps around there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you probably need 15, 20 loops around each, direction to really figure it out and get it, kind of learn your lines and all that. But so I think that's certainly a compliment to the course that, hey, I can't wait to get back and try it again. But I just didn't feel like it was the most enjoyable round I
Yeah.
played.
Another part of it is, and I don't want to take too much inside baseball conversation, but we both have the experience of playing on camera with crews following us, and some of the production elements that are involved. I just call it TV golf. It's different than if you were just out to play on your own ball and just having fun, maybe with your group of buds or whatever. So it is a very different dynamic, because you've got other considerations in mind. You've got to, is my mic dead?
Yeah.
Do I need to hit that shot again? Did it look so bad that on my show we edit heavily is my catchphrase is we edit heavily. Be careful what you wish for when you invite me to your charity event. In that setting, when you guys are playing in the duel, if at the same time you have production concerns, I do think that it can take away a little bit of the pure golf experience of it. Is that?
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
don't know how many people are on your crew, but I know it was a pretty heavy endeavor.
We're pretty nimble. Like we've got, the 5 of us do a lot of filming, and we've got two guys that work with us, Ben and Cody, that'll kind of do most of the heavy lifting as far as that goes. So, I think, it's not like we've got a sound guy and a big, posse following us around or anything like that. Like we're filming a lot of it ourselves. So that makes it even more stressful, because I'm not only having to figure out where I'm hitting the ball, but also, track where my partners are hitting their ball and where, get the alternate view, all that stuff. I think the best way I can describe it would be like, if playing that day felt like I was doing double black diamonds, like moguls, just very technical golf,
Right.
technical skiing, instead of, stuff that's just as hard, but like on some of the Devries courses, at Kingsley or even the Mines, like you felt like you were, you're on double blacks, but they're wide open and it's powder skiing, and
There's no trees coming out of the middle of nowhere.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, and to answer your question about the Forest Dunes folks, like I give them a ton of credit, because they've really embraced the debate element of it, where I think, it's like, not every course has to be your favorite course. And I think, sometimes people can kind of lose sight of that, or it's like we try to, be as open and honest as possible as far as what our true opinions are, and not hold back based on, hey, these guys were really nice to us, and these guys help us set this up. It's like, hey, here's what I thought of it. And like they could not have been more hospitable for us while we were there and after. I mean, Don and Tyler and all those guys, they're fantastic up there. So,
Yeah.
it's and duel was just a super well run event too.
Yeah, it sells out the instant they post the dates and the opportunities. So you know people like it, and the quality of play is really pretty good for the most part. Uh, there's an unusual occurrence that takes place when a national group comes into Michigan, and that is people send me comments about what you're doing. I'm like, you do know I don't have anything to do with this, right? So why didn't they go to Arcadia?
Yeah,
How could they not go to here? I'm like,
we tried.
I
Yeah,
promise I didn't have anything to do with it. So let's just talk about that for a minute. Over the
yeah.
years, we've had, excuse me, we've had a really good relationship with Mr. Postman, Mr. Shriver, and Zach and the guys over there. Just great job, and we call it our second home. Um, but it's a little bit different animal if you're bringing in a large production team and effort at a place that's really quite busy. So walk our folks through your experience in trying to bring Arcadia into that mix, and then I can be off the hook.
Yeah. No. Oh yeah. You're absolved completely. No, so I've played there twice before. Played there on a couple trips back in the early 2010s. I've never played the South Course. I'm dying to play the South Course. I'm gonna try to get up there next year just to play it kind of, casual leisure round, kind
It's
of
really, really
off
good.
camera. I can't
It's
wait to see it.
really good. And when you go, let me know.
Okay. But yeah, so basically, a few years ago, right after we got back from, so the first season of our travel series was Australia, which there we didn't get, we were only there for like a week, and we didn't get to Cape Wickham, which is Mike Devries' other, kind of crown jewel. And so I can't wait to get back and see that. But and then we went to Scotland for the next one. And then we came back from Scotland, and we were immediately trying to figure out, hey, where should we go next? And we wanted to do a domestic season, but wanted to figure out, hey, where do we want to go first? The first choice we had was Michigan.
Hmm.
So we started with, like the Loop and some of the stuff in Grand Rapids and Boyne and Gray Walls, and just started setting that up, and then contacted Arcadia, and they said, send over some info. We're happy to take a look, and basically just said, hey, thanks, but no thanks. We're not interested. And that was that. That was fine. We ended up going to California, and then just because I think at that point we didn't, we weren't sure exactly what the series was. Is it bucket list golf? Is it is it all world class top 100 golf? Is it a trip, a series about us playing golf and the courses are secondary? We were still kind of in an identity crisis or figuring out what the focus of the series was. Um, and so, I think coming back, so since then we did California, then we did Ireland, and then we did the Carolinas, and then we did Oregon. And so, coming back, we're like, all right, it's time to do Michigan. Like, we know exactly what this series is. It's kind of a combination of all those things. So, again, reached out to, a variety of people around the state, and kind of were met with the same thing from Arcadia, just as far as, and said, hey, like, we're not looking for a freebie or anything. We just, we'll pay, like, we're happy to pay full freight. It's, it's one of those things we just want to come film, and we'll book tee times before and after our tee time as well. If it's a matter of pace, like, we're good at keeping up and everything. And just one of those things. It was like, hey, you're the tenor of your content doesn't really fit what we want to do. And that's fine. That's, totally their right and everything. So we just said, hey, like, let's try to, so that was one of the reasons why we added Bay Harbor in there, just to get kind of a lakefront view. We were playing Belvedere earlier that day, and then said, hey, let's go play 9 at Bay Harbor too. So
It's funny, you guys came away from Bay Harbor not necessarily in love, especially with the links quarry layout. I was a little bit surprised by that. Just, I know that the beauty is definitely on top of the charts, but it sounded like the golf experience itself wasn't top of your list.
it's fun. I mean, I think it's kind of eye candy, in my opinion. I mean, it's like, I played the links and the quarry back in the day, probably, again, 8-9 years ago, and really liked it. And then but it's kind of I'm trying to think, like, it's definitely you feel like you're at a real estate project. right? It's like the golf's there to kind of help sell the real estate a little bit. Where, I think it's a great course. I think it's probably a little bit overpriced,
Yeah.
for what it is. But at the same time, people that are playing a couple rounds on vacation, they want to see the lake. They want to see, there's some heroic, great shots on both those nines there
Yeah.
too. So, no, I think it was more like that was kind of a leisurely, let's drink some beers and split the group up and, each part of the group play 9 holes and just go out. Cause we had a big, 22 hole match earlier that morning at
Belvedere.
yeah. So
Is there a part of you and a part of the guys that wish that the whole thing was maybe 3 weeks, and at the same time wishing it wasn't nearly as long as it was? Do you just get tired? The travel, the packing up, the moving, and then the playing. I know this sounds really, really dumb and really lame to people who have real jobs. And I say that with respect.
Right?
I totally get it, but it is tiring to do what you guys have done. It's tiring to do what we do. I'm not asking for sympathy. All right, save the violin emojis and all this stuff. I'm wondering if you guys have arrived at the sweet spot for the length and the intensity of the trip.
Yeah, I mean, like the second season when we went to Scotland, I think we were there for 8 days and we played 12 rounds of golf, I think, and we were just totally exhausted. Now we try to build in, rest day here or there. So like the day after the loop, we went to Traverse City and just hung out all day. We didn't play any golf, right? And that just kind of gives us a chance to catch up on footage, see what we need more of, just recharge. Like being on camera is definitely draining as well. Like you got to be on, right? You got to be be bubbly and energetic and thoughtful and all that. So I think it definitely takes a toll on you, and you're a little bit ragged by day 6, day 7, day 8. We have gotten better at planning. Like Detroit, we were there for 2 days, and then we went to Ann Arbor that morning, and then we drove straight to Grand Rapids from Ann Arbor. We didn't stay in Ann Arbor. So trying to get it to where we're in the same place for 2 nights in a row is huge too, to where, you're not unpacking and repacking every day. That's been a huge help as well. So we stayed at Kingsley. We stayed in one of the cottages at Kingsley for 2 nights. We stayed at Boyne Highlands for 2 nights. So, and then we were at Washkama. We were on Mackinac just for 1 night, and then Marquette for 1 night. So that was kind of we were a little bit ragged that last 3 days just because we had kind of cycled through a lot of geography there.
Yeah, the Mackinac Island experience is very special. We have a partnership with Grand Hotel, and we do 3 viewer weekends every year, golf weekends, and fill about 90 rooms each of those 3 weekends. And you talk to people about how you take a horse-drawn carriage ride on their course from the front 9 to the back 9, and obviously that doesn't happen anywhere else on the planet. And at Washkamo, you don't often play a golf course that has areas that are cordoned off because they're burial grounds, right? I mean, if you hit your ball over here, you don't go get it. It's out of respect and out of reverence. So there are these. Are you going to go to Mackinac Island just to play golf? Probably not. But if you're willing to soak in some history and the experience of being at this somewhere in time place, it's pretty cool on that island.
Yeah, that's our episode that comes out next week. And I'm super excited about that one because I think we went in with that mentality of, hey, this episode's not necessarily about the golf. And then we got to Washkamo and we absolutely loved it. It was just, there's that short par 3 that's blind the first time you play it. And then you turn around and you play all these holes again, but from different tee boxes, and most of them are radically different holes. And I've never seen that much variety out of such a small little piece of land.
Yeah, then you find an artifact like a shell casing that's been there for, I don't know, 150 years or whatever. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
People were shot on this. I don't know, it makes you think a little bit more about something other than the shot you're about to take. That's for sure.
It definitely adds some context and some perspective and makes it feel a little bit less important in a good way.
Well, man, I could talk to you all day about the experience, and I'd love to just dig into some of the behind the scenes stuff, because in my world, in fact, one of our favorite podcasts to do every year, we just did a few weeks ago at the end of production season, is Tales from the TV Crew. We just have a blast laughing about all the things that nobody ever saw on camera, and those experiences that really, I don't know how best to say this, but they're the parts of the experience that make you want to keep on doing it, even more than the golf parts, and even more than the business parts where you're actually making a living doing it. It's those moments of bonding and camaraderie. It's the stupid things that one guy says that you're just going to remind him of for the next few months, because you cannot believe that came out of his mouth at that time, and all those different things. And you're traveling with these guys now for a few years. My crew, for the most part's been the same for a couple decades. We work in some new guys on the younger end. As you look back on the Michigan experience, what are some of the didn't make the show, cutting room floor moments that still make you laugh?
We had well, first of all, the one thing we wanted to do in Detroit that we weren't able to was, is it fouling? Where, I don't know, it's like a bowling game or something that they play. Out of the fouling place was closed. And I guess it's
I don't know what that is.
yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I don't feel as bad that we missed it then.
Yeah,
But
I have no idea what you're talking about. Fallon. Somebody will tell us at some point.
but a lot of it was in the in past seasons we've kind of experimented with RVs. We had a driver in Ireland. We drove ourselves.
You've got to have a driver in Ireland.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Australia and Scotland we drove ourselves, which was, we were ragged by day 4, driving on the left side of the road and playing 36 a day. So this time we had a larger, like a Sprinter van, and then one kind of other vehicle, and that was a lot of the stuff just decompressing between rounds, or 2.5, 3 hour drive, was like, those were the times when a lot of that stuff, cameras are off, or we're charging the cameras up and we're just BSing. Like that's the really fun part. I think my favorite moment of the season was when Neil, my brother, asked the pro at Belvedere what Willie Watson was like.
Yeah.
and with a straight face,
Yeah.
he just said, very, very nonchalantly, he says, "Well, we don't know. He was born in, 1886 or 1860." It's just like, didn't miss a beat at all. That was fantastic. We had a really fun night on Mackinac. Went out with Charlie Olson, who had helped us set some of that stuff up there, and took like a sunset boat cruise under the bridge, and then went out to some of the bars there. That was a great night. Most of that's kind of off camera. Randy's parents, we were visiting with them in Boyne, and they had they've got a cottage up there. They did dinner for us one night out in their back lawn that sits right on the it's on the Ross course, I believe, there. And it's same thing. It's just a really, really like bucolic kind of just perfect, like picture perfect Michigan summer night at 9 p.m. and the sun's still up. That kind of one of those things that'll really stick with me. I think we got some of it on camera, but there was a lot more of is it Demos, the donut guy in Ann Arbor?
Yeah.
Who he's notorious for being kind of a grouch, but he's actually super lovable, entrepreneur. So he was fantastic off camera. We tried to kind of, be respectful of him and say, hey, we're not going to put the camera in your face, but at the same time, we want to, capture the atmosphere here.
Yeah.
And then, gosh,
you also had a unique Ann Arbor experience, if I remember right, that we shared, which is taking the drone up in the air on the University of Michigan campus. They're not into that. That's not happening.
No. So Solly and DJ went early that day. They woke up, drove over from Detroit about an hour and a half before everybody, and they get there and go into the pro shop, ask, hey, is it cool if we fly the drone? And the pro shop's like, yeah, absolutely, it's fine, like, whatever. So they go out, they take a cart up to the top of the hill, start flying it around and everything. And the drone footage they got looked just spectacular, right? But yeah, I think the campus police were there within like, 90 seconds. It was a very, very
Yeah.
black and white scenario of, hey, this is definitely, not on the up and up. And then, so we're like, all right, we don't want to get, the athletic department in trouble or anything like that. But they're like, don't worry about it. Like, it happens 6 or 7 times a day.
Well, I say this prefaced by the fact that that's my alma mater. So I spent time in Ann Arbor, but it was a while ago. And since then, we now refer to it as the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. And it is not easy to do anything outside of the scope of the written rules. So when we shot a show a few years ago called Great University Courses, and one of them obviously had to be U of M, I thought, well, I know those rules apply to everybody else, but this is us. No,
Yeah.
they also applied to us.
Yeah.
And I said, well, here, okay, if we can't do that, I have an idea. I'd like to open the show by walking out the tunnel at the big house. The team, it's on the cement on the top. I want to walk out on the 50-yard line, and instead of a football, I want to have my golf bag, and maybe, no, this is my naive side, maybe even if it timed out right, maybe Coach Harbaugh could come walk out and yell at me to get off of his field or something like that. And they were just looking at me like, you do know this is never going to happen, right? And I'm like, no, okay, all right, how about at least the tunnel part? That's not happening either.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what is happening? None of those things.
Yeah.
So
you have to play golf and film you playing golf, and that's it.
From ground level. Yes, you're not going to be in the air unless you toss the camera up and catch it before it hits the ground. So good stuff.
That course too, it's one of those courses where it's got there's so much elevation change. You're kind of playing up and around the side of that hill where you're it's a lot of that gets washed out on camera, and you need the drone or you need something to really be able to provide that scale and that context.
Yes, and I think the folks that we work with there, Chantel and Corbin, would have been happy to let us do it, but they already know better than to seek that permission, and that's okay too. It's good. Tron, I got a couple questions for you, Lef. It's highly unlikely that Mom and Dad Carter named you after a Disney science fiction character. So how'd the Tron name come about?
Oh, so it's actually it's a character from Chappelle Show. So
here I am going the old Intellivision game that I used to play, throwing deadly discs.
No, a lot of people think that, but yeah, there's a recurring character, and some buddies in college would call me that, and it just kind of stuck. And when we were initially starting NLU, it was I was working for Ritz-Carlton, Marriott, and Randy was working for E&Y, and Sally was working for KPMG. So we all had kind of real quote unquote jobs and real bosses too, that we didn't want them to know that we had this side project going. So we kind of went under aliases there for a little bit, and just because the whole thing was a hobby, right? Like, we weren't taking anything seriously, or we weren't like off to build some media company. We just like talking golf, and we started a Twitter account, and then from there it kind of evolved unexpectedly. But by the time it was too late to change the Tron moniker. So stuck with that. Yeah. So real name's actually Todd Schuster. And my brother Neil is, like we'll send flights or, hotel reservations or whatever. And it'll be, hey, my brother, Neil Schuster. And they're like, wait, why is your name Tron Carter? I'm like, that's just a nickname. Or, Big Randy's name is actually Phil. But Big Randy was just again, college nickname. And but it's very funny when he reaches out to, he's like our finance guy. So when he reaches out to an accounting department or, somebody on like the business side of things for a sponsor or something, and says, hey, it's coming from Big Randy at No Laying Up, but he'll sign it Phil. And they're like, wait, are you Randy or are you Phil? So
what kind of a scam are you trying to pull?
Yeah, it just goes back to like, when we started this, we had no expectations or no, objectives to make this a serious thing or a coherent business. It was just kind of a hobby.
So how much bigger is it than what you thought it might be?
I think if we set out to start what we have, we never would have been successful. Like it's so much bigger than even like we would have thought a year and a half, 2 years ago, I think. But also I think we're trying to kind of consciously stay small or stay niche, like not be all things to all people too,
Mm,
right? I think that's where you kind of lose your way,
yeah.
or can lose your way of hey, you start, losing the people that really fell in love with it in the first place, and you're kind of still your core audience. So trying to get, relatively, modest growth every year, and really just, stay true to the core audience. As long as those people that were listening to us and watching us from the very start are still listening. But yeah, I like in my wildest dreams, I don't think I could have ever, like, I still don't think my parents completely understand what my brother and I do. I have a very, very patient wife. Like I
Yeah.
quit my job with Marriott. This was 2017 or 2018. I quit it. We had a 6 month old at home, and she said, "Hey, like, this is the name of the company is No Laying Up. Like, you can't lay up. You gotta go for it. Now's the time." And it's certainly been a fun ride and a wild ride, but trying to make it so it's not just a ride or not just a run. It's, we're here for the long haul.
Yeah, after a while, it can't be just fun and games. It's got
Yeah.
to keep the lights on. It's got to keep everybody happy as well. Do you guys know where you're going next season already?
Yeah, we're trying to. So I think initially, heading into 2020, we were thinking, all right, we're going to go, I think Oregon was always on the table there. And then 2021, we wanted to go overseas and kind of, do alternate domestic and overseas each season. But with the pandemic, we said, hey, let's just go to Michigan. This is going to be easy. It's just to keep it domestic. And then, so really we've done 3 domestic seasons in a row now with Carolinas, Oregon, and Michigan. So I think we're going to try to go to England. Now what that looks like, England there's probably 4 different seasons you could do within England. And, other places that I think at some point going to Japan, but I don't think 22 is the right year to do that. Going back to Australia eventually and seeing what Mike Devries and Mike Clayton and Matt Goggin are doing down in Tasmania, down there at 7 Mile Beach, and getting to Cape Wickham, and then just kind of like we filmed that season before we really knew. Like we filmed the first 2 seasons on like iPhones, basically. Like we had, like just to give us,
Yeah.
a sense of like what we were working with and what our capabilities were. And so it's, I think we just knew what to look for. What, and DJ, our colleague and producer, is just exceptionally talented at like, kind of cobbling all this, extraneous footage together and making something coherent out of it. But I think Scandinavia, I think mainland Europe, but I think for next year, England is probably the best mix of, going international, but it not being, so adventurous and so far gone, because there's still uncertainties with, with the pandemic and travel restrictions and all that.
Yeah, the whole international thing has the potential to not let you come back home. So
Exactly.
you just, that would be an interesting phone call to make back to your wife. Hey, honey, I know I got 12 days to go with the guys. It's going to be 3 months.
Yeah, no, I had a friend who went over to Scotland. They were playing the west coast of Scotland a couple months ago, and um, you know, played for a week and a half, and time comes to fly home, and they do their tests, and 2 of them test positive, and like totally asymptomatic, vaccinated, all that, and test positive, and had to hang out in Scotland for another 7 to 8 days. I think it was.
Well, maybe you guys have had this conversation. I don't know. I've had it with my guys when we travel somewhere really, really quite special. The most recent example that comes to mind was our last shoot in Jamaica. We're staying at a very nice all-inclusive resort as part of the Jamaica Pro-Am. And I said to the guys, by the way, when you each evening check in at home, might I recommend underselling the experience a little bit? You don't want to go with, oh, I got this wristband and I can get anything. You just want to undersell. You want to go soft. Yeah, it's nice, but I sure am tired. I'm probably going to tuck in. So my producer, Greg, who's been with me since day one, we meet up for dinner that night, and he's kind of laughing. And I go, so did you check in check in with your family back home? Yeah. I was on the phone. I was FaceTiming with my wife, and a knock came on my door. And so I thought it was you. He thought it was me. And so I go to the door, I open it, and there's some guy standing there, and he says, my name is, Raphael, and I will be your evening butler. And his wife hears this exchange, and she's like, hang on, just excuse me. What did he say? Did he say evening butler? And Greg says to his wife, well, yeah, honey, the daytime butler has to have a break. Completely violating all of
Somebody's
the
gonna draw
advice.
my bath for me, right?
Well,
Yeah.
that literally, Tron, that literally is the offer he made.
Yeah.
Because Greg said, I'm about to go to dinner. And the guy says, would you like me to draw you a bath? While his wife is on the phone. And so he comes to dinner and he's like, that did not go well. And I said, I tried to tell you, you cannot, you've got to undersell. You've got to be very careful, very judicious in this. So last question for you. What's it like when you're checking in with family back home? Can you get away with, yeah, honey, I'm just really tired?
I think FaceTime's been a huge help, especially having young kids. Of like, I can, they go to bed relatively early, but if I can check in and FaceTime around 6:30, 7 o'clock when they're going to bed, that's great. It's tough for me to undersell it too, because we do so much off-camera stuff that after the fact, when the series comes out, my wife still sees everything we did, every morning or every night and everything. So it's, but I think there's definitely a certain understanding among us where it's she understands that it's still work. Right. And it's, and really a lot of the time, like we're exhausted by 9:30, 10 o'clock, and we want to be fresh because we're getting up at 5:30, 6 a.m. the next day to drive to the next golf course. So I think, sometimes it's frustrating because you want to be able to enjoy these places a little bit more, or you'd like to spend, a week there. So, sometimes like I'll go to a place first on tourist sauce, and we'll film an episode, and then 8 months later, or a year later, or 2 years later, like I'll go back, or I'll bring my wife back there, or like I'll kind of build a vacation around that. And that's kind of me recharging. But, when I wasn't able to do it the first time, but kind of filing that away and saying, hey, this is a place that really means something to me. I really want to get back here.
And I've found also that you have to be careful when you do that, as you introduce your family or your wife to the people you've worked with, and they say things like to her, I'm so sorry. Or how have you done it? Or please go to the spa on us because you're putting up with him. So it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey man, this is great. I kept you longer than I thought I would.
But good.
It's fun to chat. Thanks to Kevin Frisch for kind of connecting us as well. He does a great job with representing so many great properties in the state and around the country. And you guys doing good work. Keep it up. And we'll be watching for the rest of the season as Tourist Sauce continues in our great state at a time of year now when the premieres are taking place. When we're trapped inside, it's just freezing and miserable. So it's the burst of warm weather, and we'll take it. That's for sure.
Yeah. So we got 2 weeks left. We got Washcamo next week, and then we've got the finale at Gray Walls. But, good. And yeah, thank you to Kevin as well. Kevin, he was instrumental in setting our trip up and really, helping us kind of put the puzzle together as far as making certain tee times happen on certain mornings to make it all flow. So, well,
glad we can meet virtually. Let's tee it up next season when you come back to Michigan. Let me know.
Absolutely. Would love to.
Yeah. Thanks, Tron.
All right. Thanks, Bill. See ya.